Good morning. This is a test. This is only a test. Last couple of weeks we've been having trouble with the microphone. Lamont, can you hear me now? All right. So we're working. All right. So we're back to the breeze. So you hopefully downloaded this. Maybe some of you already have it. Let me start off by saying, if you have questions after this, I am merely the messenger. Go find Audrey. She can walk you through all of this and help you with it. I'm just doing what she tells me to do, which happens a lot. So, you open the app here, you go to that little sailboat and you open up the app and you're going to come to this place where you connect. So you'll click on connect and you're going to put in the church ID, which is North Street, all lowercase, one word. And then you'll go in there, and if you do not have an account, you must create an account. And if you do have an account, then you just log in. And if you're like me, I just stay logged in because I'm probably not going to remember my password, so I just stay logged in all the time. Somebody gets my phone, then they're going to have access to all of that. This is your dashboard when you get there. So you're probably not going to see all of these things on there. You're probably going to just see the one on the top left, top right, and then the next one down on the right. So you're going to be able to look up members, or the top left one, the star. You can go in and update your profile, change your information. And then the one down there that says events is the calendar. So you can look up members. So if you look up members, you click on that, you go there, and it lists all of the members. And let's just say you wanted to know everything about Travis Van Scoter. So you just click on Travis Van Scoter, and there you go. And this is unfortunate, because I was hoping Travis's phone number was going to be bigger, and I was going to have all of you guys call him during service here. But anyway, the really great thing about it is you just touch on the phone number, and then it just calls him. So you don't have to go remember it or anything like that. And the address is in there, so if you're around town anywhere, you don't have to call Audrey and say, can you give me so-and-so's phone number or address? You have it right on your phone. And of course, you can go on there and check out stuff that's going on. If you have any questions, you may come by the office or call Audrey in the office. And I just want to direct your attention again to Audrey. Not to me, I'm merely the communicator. So there you go. I hope you're up on Breeze now. It is a great tool. I have been so thankful for it because I'm out and about and trying to get a hold of somebody and I don't have the number, and invariably I call Audrey. So now I don't have to do that. We had a baptism last week. Wasn't that exciting? And I just want to encourage you, if you're a person that's been thinking about being baptized into Christ, we want to make that opportunity available to you. You can come to the front at the end of the sermon. If you want to know more about that, want to know more about what it means to be a disciple of Jesus, then you can meet with myself or the elders. The elders are in the conference room every Sunday after worship. A couple of elders and their wives, conference room, out the back door, down to the left. You can meet with them for prayer. You can meet with them to find out about being baptized. You can meet with them just about anything. So I encourage you to do that. This morning we continue our lesson series on desire. This morning, everyday envy. Let's begin in prayer. Father, we are thankful for so many gifts. And as each of us think about what you have done for us individually and how you have created us individually and given each one of us special gifts, special abilities, we are thankful for those. And Father, we would ask that you would intervene and help us, remind us of those things that you have given us so that we have greater self-assurance and maybe do not desire or covet the other things that other people have. Ask now the blessing upon the preaching and hearing of your word. It's through Jesus we pray. Amen. So in his book On Desire, William Irvine lays out this scenario. You've come into work, you sit down at your computer, and you get an anonymous email. And the email lists everybody's salary that you work with. And you know it's accurate because you see your salary on there, and it's accurate. So everybody else's must be as well. And the problem you're having is that your salary is way down here, and you're seeing people above you that don't have nearly the experience you have, do not have, in your estimation, nearly the capabilities you have, and yet they're being paid more than you. And so now you're kind of miffed, and you spend the next half of the day miffed about all of this, And finally, the boss comes out, makes an announcement, and puts a piece of paper on the bulletin board and says to everyone that someone has hacked his email and gotten everybody's salaries and sent them out. But what they did is they fabricated the salaries. So every person that got the email, their salary was correct, but all the rest of the salaries on there were skewed. They were not right. So he says, for one time and one time only, what I'm going to do is put out the accurate list so we can stop all these complaints and all these concern and all this gossip. So he puts it on the bulletin board, and everybody kind of just looks at it. And then they slowly saunter over, and you slowly saunter over, and you look at that list, and sure enough, your salary is accurate on there. But you're no longer down here. Now you see that there's only a couple of people above you. You are getting paid a lot more than these other people that you thought before were being paid more than you. Now you're walking like this back to your desk, right? What changed? Salaries are the same. The only difference is in how it is related to other people, whether it's more or less than other people. The world would be great were it not for other people. Isn't that true? The problem is we kind of need them, don't we? We kind of love them, and we want to be loved by these other people, but these other people sometimes create trouble for us. Sometimes they do things that creates trouble for us, but very often they just are. And it's something about who they are or what they have that makes us envious or covetousness in us. And so we have trouble with them. I know that I certainly do. I want attention. I want recognition. And so do you. Come on, be honest. So do you, right? I have learned what it's like now to be Elvis Presley at the Sunshine School. Walk through the Sunshine School. I do chapel with the kids every week at the Sunshine School, and now we've become buddies. I've become very popular. I walk by the playground. Hi, Mr. Curtis. Hi, Mr. Curtis. And I wave back. Hi, how you doing? No, they got to wave some more. Hi, I'm okay. Hi. And I walk in the gym, and they're in there, and they're grabbing my leg, and they're hovering around. Okay, I'd be lying if I told you I didn't like that. And you would like it too. It's great. Now, I know what's going to happen. They're all going to grow up and say, that's Mr. Curtis. Who cares about that guy? But for now, it's really great to be recognized like that. And if you're ever really not feeling great about yourself, just come down to the Sunshine School, do a little volunteer work. Everything will turn out well for you because they're going to recognize you, which is no new desire. All of us want recognition. All of us want attention. And it goes back centuries. Plato, centuries and centuries ago, wrote, men are ready to run all risks greater than they would run for their children and spend money and undergo any sort of toil and even die for the sake of leaving behind them a name which shall be eternal. So that after they're dead and gone, people will still recognize them. The Roman Cicero wrote, those very philosophers, even in the books which they write about despising glory, put their names on the title page. We all want to be recognized. We all want people giving us attention. The problem we experience, though, very often is we want this recognition, we want this attention, but someone else is getting it. You know the story in the Bible about Saul, King Saul? You know, he's the big cheese in Israel, right? He's the guy that's a head taller than everybody else, leading the armies in battle. Everything is going great until this little shepherd boy comes out there and rocks the giant's world, right? Literally. And now, all of a sudden, he's the hero. And so they're coming back from the battle, and here's what happens. When the men were returning home after David had killed the Philistine, the women came out from all the towns of Israel to meet King Saul with singing and dancing, with joyful songs and with timbrels and lyres. And they danced and they sang, Saul has slain his thousands and David his tens of thousands. Don't you know that just grated on the big cheese, King Saul? They're singing more about David. He just killed the one guy. What's all of this? And now Saul has something, but David has something more. and Saul would like to have it. Well, needless to say, we have a moody monarch after this. Lots of people have things we want, don't they? Remember the story in Genesis. Abel makes his offering to God, and it's acceptable to God. God recognizes Abel. Cain makes his offering, and it's rejected by God. We don't know all of the details, but it's rejected by God. And so Abel has something that Cain would really like to have. A little bit later in Genesis, Joseph is loved by his father more than all of his brothers, and his father gives him this coat of many colors, and his brothers are envious. They want what Joseph has. So desiring these things that other people have, these positions, really is nothing more than envy. And no one is immune to it. There's this great story of this monk in ancient Egypt who was known for being serene. Nothing could faze him whatsoever. And so the devil decided to take some of his henchmen and go off and see what he could do about this monk. So he goes there, and one of the demons first comes up to the monk who's sitting in serenity and smiling, and the devil plants in, or the demon plants in his mind this thought of power. He could rule the world. He could be in control of absolutely everything. And the smile on the face of the monk never changed, perfectly serene. So another demon comes in and plants thoughts in his mind about money, of gold and silver, and all the things he could buy with the money. But still, the monk's face remains serene. He is happy. So another demon comes along and plants thoughts of sexuality in his mind, of dancing women, scantily clad women, and yet his face remains the same. He is serene. He's happy. So the devil says, "Step aside, boys, I got this handled." He comes over and he whispers in the monk's ear. He said, "You remember your school friend Macarius? Well, Macarius is now Bishop of Alexandria." And all of a sudden the smile became a scowl. The envy that he had for his friend. So no one is immune to any of this. Some of the things that we envy are really actual things. And so this is really what you'd cross over from envy to covetousness. Remember the story in the Bible of Achan? Children of Israel conquered Jericho. They were told not to take anything, but they did take some things. Well, actually, Achan is the one who took some things, a Babylonian robe, some gold and some silver, hid it in his tent. They go off to fight at the next battle in Ai, and they lose because Achan has coveted some things that he wasn't supposed to take, and did take some things he wasn't supposed to. Remember King Ahab? Ahab had this guy next to him who had this great vineyard, and he loved this vineyard. He wanted this vineyard, not for a vineyard. He wanted to tear it down and plant a garden there, but he just sulked because the guy wouldn't sell this thing to him. He coveted what the other guy had. So technically, envy is you envy people for like their position they're in or something that they have in terms of attention from other folks. And coveting is about the stuff that people have. So you envy somebody because they got a promotion at work. You covet them because they bought this Corvette, and now you would like to have the Corvette. But the truth of the matter is, they're sort of connected, because even though you're coveting the Corvette, it still belongs to another person. And so envy and coveting, there's sort of this fine line between the two of these things, this fine distinction. But other people are always involved, and so we covet and we envy. Not that any of us would admit it. Herman Melville wrote, "A lot of criminals confess to terrible crimes, but no one wants to confess to envy." Why? Well, because it seems so petty, right? And it is so petty that we're not happy when this guy gets a promotion at work, and instead of being happy for him, all of a sudden you're saying, "I should have gotten that promotion." And now you're upset with the guy. He gets recognized as Employee of the Month. And rather than being happy for him, you're kind of thinking, "Man, I wish he'd get hit by a bus or something," I mean, we go through those feelings, right? Because we're envious of people and what they have or the positions that they have. So if other people did not exist, we really wouldn't experience any of these sort of things. So envying and coveting are really ultimately about what we want. They are about our desires in life. If you think about the Ten Commandments, coveting is the only one of the Ten Commandments is not about an action. It's not about, stealing is about something you do. Killing is about something you do. Adultery is about something you do. But coveting is about the heart and what you want. You shall not covet. And the reason this is so important, because there's going to be so many actions that are going to come out of this later on. But envy also is not something you do. It's something you want. It's something in the heart. I found this website this week that's a confessional website for people that envy. They just go on there and confess what their envy is. Listen to this one. I confess that I envy my sister's life. She's perfect. She has a sweet and caring boyfriend. She only has good grades. She has fantastic friends. She is very good in sports. She gets her own money by working in a bakery. She's really good at baking too. And my parents adore her. I am only the fat younger sister with bad grades and no friends. It's terrible. I wish my sister wasn't born. Everything would have happened differently. I get that. There was a guy in my high school, played on the high school football team. He was the running back, second in the state of California in rushing the football. He also played linebacker, and he played catcher on the football team, and he wasn't bad looking. Okay, but he's a dumb jock, right? No. He was smart, too. He had it all going on. Went to USC on a full scholarship. I hated the guy. Just to have everything, right? This is what coveting is all about. And so envy only wants and coveting only wants, but what happens is those wants turn into do's. When we envy and we covet, then often we end up with some bad actions, some bad things that result from all of this. And so James writes these words, "For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder and every evil practice." Think about Cain again. He's envious. His brother's getting the attention from God. God accepts his sacrifice and not Cain's. And so what does Cain do? Kills his brother. Saul is so angry because David's getting all this attention. So what does he try to do? He tries to kill David, throws his spear at him and tries to kill David. And we think again of King Ahab, who wanted the vineyard, wanted it so much, sulked about it, that it motivated his wife to go out and have the guy killed so that Ahab could have the vineyard. So all of these things in our hearts, all these desires, these coveting that we're doing, and this envy that we're involved in is often going to lead to some kind of bad action. And these aren't just stories in the Bible. You hear about this. You can read about this in the news every day. In 2008, 15-year-old Tiana Brown moved in with her aunt and her cousin in New York. And Tiana figured out pretty quickly that her cousin was like this guy I went to school with, had everything. She was really smart, really popular at school, and she had some shoes that Tiana really wanted. And so Tiana stabbed her cousin to death 49 times for her shoes, and then went to hang out with her friend. You remember the shooting at Columbine High School in the late 90s in Colorado? 18-year-old Eric Harris and 17-year-old Dylan Klebold shot 13 students at Columbine High School. And in his journal, Dylan Klebold wrote these words, "I see jocks having fun, friends, women. I hated the happiness that they have." Psychologist Peter Longman wrote, "Many people have assumed that school shooters target peers who have picked on them. This is rarely the case. Few shooters kill anyone who has harassed them. Rather, shooters are more likely driven by envy than by revenge." So these terrible things that we want, these desires that we have, often lead to bad actions. Most of us don't resort ourselves to doing things like murder, I don't think. But it doesn't mean we don't do things. Again, back to the Confessions website. One woman wrote, "My daughter is 5 years old and she gets a lot of compliments for her beautiful long lashes. I was really tired of hearing of those flatteries. I cut them off about 15 minutes ago while she was sleeping." Envious of your 5-year-old daughter. Because we envy, then we might gossip about this person that has something, this position or this attention that we really want. So we might gossip about them, or we might lie about them. We can't get ourselves up to their position and to their level. So what are we going to do? We're going to try to do something to bring them down to ours. Now, if you're really sophisticated, it's not blatant lie. You're going to kind of drop innuendos and suggestions about the person, make people think about it. So we become envious of people's position. We become creative with discrediting them. You might say things like, I'm not sure she's got a clue. What do you think? Or maybe you'd say, I think that it's possible he could be in over his head. What do you think? And we try to bring them down a notch or two. Envy causes friends to stab their friends in the back. And so you go around and you betray a confidence that your friend shared with you because you're envious of your friend because they make a lot of friends, or because they're successful and you're not successful. Or maybe you just forget to tell your roommate about the phone call you got about that interview because you really don't want your friend to get the job. And so sometimes they're very subtle. We convince ourselves that we're not really doing that. A girl sees her friend at a party and she's talking with everybody. She's very popular, and so she gives her friend the cold shoulder, and when she's confronted about it later on, she says, oh, no, I was just having a rough day. There was nothing intentional. And we can convince ourselves that that's true. But sometimes it's not subtle at all. We just, like the mother with the 5-year-old, they just need to learn a lesson. And so we take it out on them. And the end result, of course, is we end up hurting other people with our envy, but actually we sort of end up hurting ourselves in the process as well. Aesop, you remember Aesop's fables? He tells the story of these 2 eagles flying around, and one of them was able to soar much higher than the other one, and the one down below became envious, and so he started pulling these big feathers out of his wings and shooting them up like arrows to try to shoot the other eagle down, but he kept missing, and finally, you know what happened? He pulled out so many of the feathers that he fell to the ground. Envy is not just destructive to other people, it's also very destructive to us. And so Proverbs says this, a heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones. We're lying about this other person and what's going on with this other person. And all of a sudden that starts coming back to us because people are recognizing that the lies that we tell, and now they don't trust us, and now we don't want to be around us. Or we're demeaning these other people, and people are starting to recognize there's actually nothing wrong with that person. There's something wrong with the person that's doing the demeaning. And again, they don't want us to be around us. And we find ourselves endlessly unhappy because we don't have this position, we don't have this acclaim, we don't have the attention that this person has that we want so desperately. And so sometimes we'll knock ourselves out to achieve it. And one of 2 things usually happens there. Either we don't ever achieve it, and so we're continually unhappy, or maybe we do achieve it and we find out it's really not all that we thought it was going to be. And in fact, there's somebody else up higher than the ladder, and now we have to knock ourselves out to meet that one. And so envy continues to do us in as well. We might be surprised about how much of our difficulty and how much of how many of the things that we experience in life that are troubling for us actually are rooted, traced back to our own envy. Which is why I think the Catholic Church lists envy among the 7 deadly sins. And you could go to the New Testament and just notice there's a number of times in the New Testament that you'll just get listing of sins, and almost every time envy is in the list. Because there's something in this heart of ours, there's something in this desire, in our wants, that ultimately is going to come out in some kind of action. And it's going to rot the bones. Envy rots the bones. So how are we going to keep it from doing that? Peter writes these words, therefore, rid yourselves of all malice and all deceit, hypocrisy, envy, and slander of every kind. Well, how do you do that? I know, just tell yourself, stop envying. Just go ahead and try that now. Stop envying. Stop. Is that working? Doesn't usually work so well, does it? So let me give you 3 suggestions of ways you might be able to work on the envy. The first one is you just have to name it. You have to recognize in yourself what's going on, that you're envious of this person that got this promotion. You're envious of your friend who has all these people around her that love her and want to be around her. She has lots of friends. You're envious of this position, whatever it is that they're in, and the attention that these folks are getting. You're never going to be able to get a handle on envy until you realize that that's what's going on. And so you have to name this in your life. Why does it bother you that this person got promoted? Why does it bother you that she has all of these friends? Until you get a clear vision of what's happening, you're not going to get a handle on this. Secondly, then, do good for the person that you envy. Do good for them. Because the one way to overcome the envy and then the actions that come from the envy is to act against those, to go against the grain. So when you feel like giving the person the cold shoulder, be kind to them instead, because you're going to act against what's going on. Be kind to the girl who has all these friends instead of giving her the cold shoulder. Congratulate the guy, and try to mean it if you can. Congratulate the guy that got the promotion. Pat him on the back. Job well done. Way to go. By doing good, you end up practicing love. Because you remember this truism, you cannot feel yourself into a better way of acting, but you can act yourself into a better way of feeling. And the more you do that, the more your heart and your attitude is shaped towards that person, and the less envious you become, and actually the more loving you become. Because love and envy are opposites. The Apostle Paul wrote, "Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy. It does not boast, it is not proud." And so when you practice love towards folks, it has this way of reducing your envy. And thirdly, be thankful for who you are. I was mentoring at Reggae this week, and I saw this quote. I've seen this before from Dr. Seuss, but it just reminded me of it. "Today you are you. That is truer than true. There is no one alive who is youer than you." Isn't that great? But it's true. God has blessed each one of you and gifted each one of you with special gifts. He didn't make another you ever, and He's never going to make another you again. You should be happy for the you that you are. God has blessed you. There's no reason that you should want to be someone else, whatever position that they have, whether it's up here or down here. God has made you you and given you those gifts. And so one writer wrote this: "The weeds of envy cannot take root in a heart filled with gratitude." So be thankful. The Bible talks about salvation in terms of shalom, well-being. We all imagine heaven's going to be this wonderful place of well-being. But the Bible also talks about beginning to experience that in this life, that we can be beginning to experience this life that Christ has to bring us, this well-being, salvation now that will extend onto them. If you will experience it, if you are honest about what's going on inside of you, you will experience if you can act towards the person better than you feel. You will experience it if you can be thankful for the way you are, the way that God has made you. You will experience it if. Let's stand and sing.